Welcome to a brand new episode of Wind Down with Kev. We are in season 5. This is episode 6. And what is Wind Down with Kev, you might ask? Wind Down with Kev is my podcast, it's my platform. It gives me a chance to relax, decompress, and bring you amazing conversations with interesting people that I meet along the way of this wonderful journey called life. 2023 was a very heavy business travel year for me. I went to Atlanta, I went to Las Vegas, Florida, all over the world. And along the way, I met interesting people. And as I connected with them, I left my stamp and I said, I want to have you as a guest on my podcast. Tonight is no different. Tonight, Wind Down with Kev started local, went national, and now we go international as we cross the Canadian border for the first time and bring you a wonderful guest, Miss Edwina McKennon.
Yay! Hey, Kevin.
Talk to the people, introduce yourself to our audience out there, and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, first off, for having me a part of this podcast. I'm very excited to be a part of this and to dive right into our conversation. But just for those, if this is the first time you're hearing about me, again, my name is Edwina McKennon. I am a business leader here in Canada, particularly in Toronto, and predominantly played at the forefront of insurance. And prior to that, I dabbled in tech. And then for a lot of my longevity in my profession, I've been in sales, and really exciting now to be charting in a little bit of a new direction into artificial intelligence. So I definitely love, trailblazing a lot of the efforts from the business perspective, to the point where I have been nominated for numerous of awards when it comes to pushing for women to be in C-suite positions, or just being the CEO of their life. I'm huge with motivation. I've been recognized globally, and just really excited to also talk about, like I said, AI. And that's really going to be my focus going forward in my career, is really looking to demystify this technology, and really get a broader audience to be a part of it. I also have a popular podcast and a TV series myself called Move Us Forward. And this is where we love to get, a range of different speakers to really look at leveling us up. We believe in listening, learning, and leveling up. So that's me. I'm on a mission to encourage more women and people of color to look at engaging in sales, business, and now shaping the future of AI. So thank you for having me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. There is a lot to unpack there, but for everybody that's listening, wherever you listen to your podcast at, everybody that's watching, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're seeing the reel on IG, buckle up, tell a friend that we have a major guest that if you don't know, now you know. So, Edwina and I, very, very chance meeting. This is the power of networking and going to networking events. You and I met very, very random. We both are down at InvestFest in Atlanta. We happen to be leaving the hotel at the same time, jumping into an Uber. I'm waiting for my Uber. You and your sister, I believe, was waiting for an Uber, and there was another gentleman. Nothing was happening. Finally, we partnered together, jumped in a large Uber together, and we had an amazing conversation for about 15 minutes where we learned that we both were in the same business. So before we get into insurance and AI, I want to ask you how you enjoyed InvestFest, what motivated you to take the trip down from Canada, and how was your experience?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, I do remember traveling to Atlanta. That was actually my first time traveling to Atlanta. And just leading up to that experience, me and my sister literally made the call to go to Atlanta the Thursday before the event started, which was the Friday. So we literally booked our tickets on the Thursday morning, and I'll never forget it. I literally called my sister and said, okay, let's do it. We were going back and forth about it for a few days, and yeah, we ended up in Atlanta. I think one of the biggest things for me is networking. So I thought it would be a great opportunity. There's a business strategy that I love to encompass in everything I do. It's called the land and expand strategy. So it's pretty much a strategy where you land small, you start small, and then you enlarge your territory. So that's what I was looking at it as. I said to my sister, this would be a great opportunity to land and expand in Atlanta. So we did. And my sister is she's very she's a great person to travel with, and the reason why is because she knows a lot about the different cities. So she actually researched and found the hotel that we met at, and she said this is going to be the hotel that we need to stay at because everybody is going to be at this hotel. So
Yeah.
we actually ended up spending more money at the hotel that we stayed at to be able to stay amongst people that we really wanted to network with. So InvestFest was a great opportunity to be amongst other like-minded individuals, and especially people of color. That was the first time in a long time that I was able to sit amongst, I think there was like 11,000. I'm probably off with the numbers, but 11,000 Black entrepreneurs, mostly in the building, that was looking for financial literacy and just looking to network. So just taking a step back, 2023, I actually went to 58 networking events. And
that's how you land and expand. 58 networking events. I'm glad you counted the number of events that you went to. That's impressive by itself.
Absolutely, because I was very intentional in 2023 to really start to get, like, I networked for a very long time. You know, being in insurance, that's how you get business, is through networking. So I've been networking for a very long time, but it was in a different capacity. So I was shifting gears to be amongst to find more Black spaces, and that's what I did in 2023. So 58 out of those events, about 51 of them were all Black networking events. But going back to InvestFest, it was such a great opportunity. I think the biggest takeaway for me was being able to hear Robert Smith speak.
Yes.
Being in the presence of a Black billionaire, it made me realize that my dreams and goals were too small.
Yes, well said.
Yeah, but for me, the biggest thing was that hotel that we stayed at. There was a lot of other Black events happening, and when we landed, there was actually a group called, I think it was another group called the Billionaire Black Group that had just hosted their event. So being at that hotel was really great. I met you. I met Kevin. I don't know if you remember the other individual you met too.
Yes, I kept his number. Yes.
Yeah, I met just a lot of people at that hotel. So InvestFest for me was great, but what was even better was being at that hotel, because that was where everybody was staying.
You and I had a very similar takeaway. The headliners, obviously Robert Smith. Of all the headliners, all the entertainers, that was the one where I stopped networking and being a vendor, and I just went and sat and listened to what he had to say. But I've told everyone that asked me about my experience, I said, you could not walk 2 feet without running into another great person and having a great conversation somewhere in the realm of financial literacy. And that doesn't happen every day in New York. It doesn't happen every day in Toronto. So that was special. And then we all get to bring that information back to our respective communities and to be ambassadors for the financial literacy conversation going forward. So I want to unpack one thing that you said is too powerful to let go. For everybody that's listening in the networking space, let's talk to women in particular, and maybe women that want to be C-suite, CEO, and want to be in networking spaces. Why don't you expand a little bit on your philosophy of expand and land, and really that courage and confidence to get out there, to connect and meet who you have to meet, and make sure those people in power know you so you can make your next move.
Absolutely. There's a saying that I always talk about it's, closed mouth has a closed destiny. And this is such a powerful saying, because if you're not talking about what you're doing, and if you're not telling people what you're doing, then nobody's going to know. And I remember when I read a quote by Malcolm X, he said, whenever you're doing things, make noise when you're doing things. And when we think about being just, just being colored, period, we don't have really time to be shy and quiet and hold on to our dreams and our destiny. Now is the time to get out and make noise, get out of your comfort zone. And it's the moment that you are feeling uncomfortable, that is when you should be comfortable, is when you're feeling uncomfortable. So when I talk about the strategy, land and expand, I remember when I actually first got into sales, that was something that I read, and I'm an advocate for I'm a life learner, so I'm always reading. And when I first got into sales, I read a book by Grant Cardone, and he spoke about the land and expand strategy, where you start small and then you're able to just blossom from there. And a lot of the times people get overwhelmed, like, where do I start? I want to start big, but it's not about really starting big. It's about starting small so you can get to big, and you have to start somewhere. So what I say to women, especially women of color, is like, you're not going to find you're not going to find what you need to lift off and have that tipping point in your life by staying home and
No.
dealing with like imposter syndrome and dealing with all of the things that we say in our mind. So it's like, once we come out of what we say in our mind and we lock into, okay, number one, we know who we are, we know what we bring to the table, then it's not about bragging, it's about being confident and knowing what you're doing, and connecting with people is very important. So I highly recommend, especially for Black women, now is a great time to just get out and network. And like I said, I went to 58 networking events intentionally, and I've been coined the queen of networking with reason, because my presence is felt at networking events. And when I go, I always have a strategy or an objective. So I encourage everyone, they say that your net worth is your network.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, anything that I'm going through in life, I have about 3 to 6,000 contacts right now. So it doesn't matter what I'm going through in life, I have somebody that I can connect with. And that was something that I learned when I got into sales, is like, make sure your contact books, it has various different people in different industries. So it doesn't matter what I'm going through in life, I always have a connect.
That's huge, and that makes you infinitely powerful. So I love the land and expand. I love giving credit to Grant Cardone, Mr. 10X, Mr. 100X, starting small and just expanding your goal. So I want to go into insurance first, and then we really want to get into the AI space, because that's the elephant in the room that everyone wants to learn about. But you've been recognized recently for your, as a woman in insurance in Canada, women to watch around the world. Talk about some of your recognition and some achievements in the insurance space, and what you did to win these amazing awards.
Absolutely. I'd probably start with the very first award that I ever won when I came into the insurance industry. It was 3 months in, being at that time, I owned my own book of business, and I was 3 months in of building out my own book of clients. I was able to earn an award called the Forecaster Award. And in order to win this award, you have to hit a certain amount of sales. And I did so good within 3 months that I was actually the top across all of Canada, number one within the organization that I worked with for the amount of sales that I had coming in. And obviously there's a lot of top players that was in line with me, but I remember sitting at my desk one day and I had an epiphany, like, okay, all I have to do is sell. All I have to do is help people, and I get paid accordingly. So it was really great. So that was the first award I won, Forecast Award, where they actually forecasted that I would be one of the greatest individuals within the industry, top 1% within the industry. And that was that was a tipping point for me, because I realized that, and I have a strong sales background. That wasn't my first sales role, but it was my first highest paying sales role. So I was able to lock down. I did the land and expand strategy, and this was about 16 years ago. So I started in insurance 16 years ago. I was actually probably one of the first Black women to be in sales at that time. So if you're thinking about 16 years ago, sales back then was door knocking.
Yes.
Okay. Printing 5,000 flyers, and
Yes.
I would literally put my runners on and drop flyers at every door. And there was a particular clientele that I was after. I was after private clients. So
So you're
those
scale client. You're
client,
talking marketing in diverse neighborhoods where the
yeah,
upscale money is. Go ahead.
scale neighborhoods. Anybody that was making over $1 million in revenue, those are the only people that I wanted to go after. So I would drive far out, hand out flyers. I printed 5,000 flyers. So sales back then was very different. So yes, I won the Forecaster Award. And from there, throughout my whole career, I probably have over 20 awards. And the top ones for me is the Woman of Distinction, where I became a finalist two years in a row. And then another great one was just being top Black woman to watch, and with reason, because I'm a trailblazer trying to make sure that there's nobody left behind. My mission is very clear. I want to be able to not just be loved and not just be looked after, but I want to be able to inspire and have that, influence on individuals where they can see something that they could accomplish. So there's a saying, destined for greatness.
Yes. Yeah.
That's my belief. And I truly believe that, God has ordained me to be here with purpose. So I'm just living out my purpose. That's what I'm doing. And if I get awards on the way, I'm happy about that. But over 20 awards. And I look at myself as number 1% in the industry.
I love it. That 1% mindset will separate you in everything that you do. So that is a perfect segue to begin to talk about artificial intelligence and AI. My God, has the insurance world changed in the short 16 years that you've been a part of it? When you entered the business 16 years ago, your strategy is door knocking, handing out good old paper flyers. Fast forward to today, you are trailblazing into the artificial intelligence world. So I'm going to say AI a lot. I'm not going to enunciate that every time. Talk to me about the transition to AI, and then we're going to get in some very, very specific questions about AI and why all insurance people, Canada, America, doesn't matter, should be thinking about and introducing AI into their daily operations.
Right. So I had the opportunity a few years back to work with an insurtech company. They'll remain nameless, but I worked with an insurtech company, and that's when I stumbled across a lot of tech terminologies. And within that time period, I worked very close with a dev team that worked on new technology coming into the insurance industry, and it was the first of its kind. And I remember taking time to just study technology. And I remember I came across a term which I didn't think much of at that time, but as time elapsed, I started to recognize that this was going to be a huge tipping point, not just within the insurance industry, but within many industries. So started to take some courses, and I loved getting certified in different things. And I remember my first course that I took in tech was it was like, I think it was a foundations to AI. And I remember,
Put a date stamp on that. How long ago is this first foundations course? Put a date stamp on that. 5 years?
2.5 years ago, almost 3 years.
Okay.
It was right around the pandemic.
Okay.
And I left a job that I was really comfortable at, and I took a wing and I joined a tech firm. When I joined, I didn't have a position. We just knew that I wanted to be a part of this great, idea, this great thing that they were founding. But I ended up dabbling into different tech. I took blockchain courses, I took crypto courses, NFTs, but there was something about the foundations of AI that stood out with me. And as I started to learn about it, one of the biggest things when I got into the class was I was the only Black person there. And I was actually the only woman on top of that there. So I usually like to be in spaces where I am pioneering things.
Let me share with you. If you're the only one in the room, this is what I say to myself all the time. I'm always in that space. If I'm the only one in the room, I'm in the right room. Now my job is to show up and do a good enough job so others can get in. Someone else that I read about, her name escapes me. She coined the phrase first, only, different, FODs. And those are the guests like you that I try to target in my podcast. Anybody doing something first, only, and different, because I know if you share your story, you're going to inspire someone that's listening to travel down that first, only, different lane as well. But go ahead.
Yes, yes. So that I love that those acronyms. But yeah, I just remember being in that moment. I took the course, finished it, I left it as is. I was more focused on taking another course on automation. That was a huge thing for me. But being in that moment, I realized, okay, AI was actually it was kept amongst a certain group, a certain class of people, and I started to research it, and I got really involved in it to the point where I was like, you know what, I actually want to start my own insurance company. And I started a journey of trying to start my own insurance company, but the insurance company was going to be very different. I actually envisioned an insurance company that was all digital. And at the time when I came up with these ideas, the industry itself wasn't ready for like 100% digital insurance company. It was very unheard of. But yeah, AI is something that I kind of fell into, and then ever since I fell into it, I've become actually very obsessed with it. Where to the point, like I traveled with my sister to Atlanta, and she actually got to see my lifestyle face to face. I'd wake up every morning about 5:30, and the first thing I'm doing is I'm turning on AI news. And then I'm going into a course on AI. So I became very, and I'm still very obsessed with AI because I know that this is going to be the one of the greatest creations of humans, the kind ever. And I'm really excited about it because it's like what a time to be alive to experience this. And I don't think people's really understanding what's going on. But I remember back in the day, I don't want to expose my age, but there's a show called Jetsons. I don't know if you remember
I
Jetsons.
remember the Jeffersons very well. My gray beard exposes my age. I can't hide it.
But I do remember that show, and I remember loving the like seeing the flying cars and the selfless flying cars and the virtual meetings that looked like you were there but you weren't there. And I started to like become very obsessed with AI, and I started to like reflect back on my childhood and the type of shows that I used to watch, and it was almost like everything that I watched was actually happening now. So
Mhm.
that's AI to me. AI is very intriguing. AI it's the beginning. It's bigger than the internet. You
And,
remember?
and that's an interesting comparison because we're not that far removed from Y2K. Everyone thought when the year 2000 came that the world would crash, everything was going to stop. Jenny, come on, maybe it's two pieces of paper. Yeah, and that the world was going to stop. Right, Y2K, we wouldn't get our money. Fast forward to today, we survived the internet. We survived the internet. We survived everything else. And now here we are, we're talking about AI. And I agree with you that it's the next big revolutionary thing, economic changing thing. So I'm going to dig into it and ask you some very specific questions. But before I do it, before I go into the insurance, I want to ask for people that are not in the insurance space, everyday people, don't you think that everyone should be curious about AI right now. Like I'm using AI every single day and everything I do, not to the level that you are. My eyes open when you said AI news. That was news to me, but I am learning and using new AI technology every day. So just for the everyday person, not an entrepreneur, not in the insurance space with you and I, not in the tech space where you're going 100%. But what do you think people should be doing to understand what's getting ready to happen?
Absolutely. There's a huge shift that's taking place, that those that are not are not learning AI, I always say this is going to be left behind because there's a shift that's taking place within the jobs market. There's a shift that's taking place within every grocery store. There's a shift that's taking place. There's a digital shift that's taking place. And what's happening is AI, it's a new level of intelligence.
Yes.
Like I said, the internet is an amazing tool for sharing and accessing information. However, AI adds a whole new layer to this. And if we look at AI is actually mimicking a lot of what humans do.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we look at it, it's like you can imagine it being like a really smart robot, a
Yes.
really smart robot friend who could learn things on its own, right? It can now it can create pictures. It could tell you if the picture you've submitted is a cat or a dog. It can also learn. It can also write emails. Like there's so much things that it can do now that it's just like now it's saying it can help doctors diagnose. It can help lawyers create legal documents. Like now is a great time. And I say this is if you are not learning AI, you will be left behind because those that are not integrating AI in some capacity or is not trying to learn it, you will get because the world is shifting right now. And I give it about 2 to 3 years, and a lot of the jobs that we see now is going to be, you know, unfortunately taken over, you know, by chatbots as an example, by this intelligence that we're seeing. And I always love to look at history. And before we go into those questions, because I know you have some, I did want to say like history, you know, when steam was getting replaced by, you know, electricity.
Yes.
And I remember a lot of the manufacturers was like, oh, electricity would never come and replace steam. Like steam was the biggest thing. And all of a sudden one day, and you can check the news, like there was a picture I saw online where there was a lot of people standing in the streets, itching their head, figuring out like what just happened. They got laid off. And
Yeah.
actually, if we look, it's actually the same thing that's happening right now. History is now happening right now in the future where there's mass layoffs that are taking place that we can see publicly, but there's also layoffs that's taking place where you can't see. So there's layoffs that are hitting the news, right? Like if we look at recently, Microsoft, as an example, is looking to lay off about 30 to 40,000 people to replace it with AI. So to answer your question, now is the time to upskill. And
Yes.
if you're not upskill, like if you're not going to upskill yourself and learn about AI and you're going to be afraid of it, then AI will take over a lot of these tasks that we're doing. So now is a great time. Now is a great time to lock in and learn about it. It's not a tech thing. Okay, because a lot of people get confused, like, oh, this is another tech thing, like crypto. It's another tech. This is not a tech thing. It's not a buzz. This is not a buzzword. This is not the future. This is the now. So now is a great time to level up.
And we're using it every day. When we're ordering something from Amazon and we go to checkout and they say, most people that bought that shirt also bought these pants or these socks or this hat, whatever it is. So it's happening every day. So thank you for that. Let's dive in. Let's dive in. So, how do you envision artificial intelligence transforming the insurance industry in the next decade?
Oh wow! So after working in the insurance industry for 16 years, obviously between me and you, there's a lot of different things there's things that are happening, like legacy systems that's been around for many years. So there's things that are definitely going to be changed, right? So like over the next decade, I believe AI is going to be the game changer in insurance. And, you know, we're looking at an industry that is historically like has a lot of data. It's a data rich industry, right? And
Yes.
what I'm noticing now is that, this industry lacks a lot of the tools to really fully leverage this data, right? So AI I believe, is set to change this. It's going to bring about a revolution, right, in how we process claims. So for those that work in the industry, how we process claims, how we tailor policies, how we even predict future trends. So like who's going to get into an accident when, right? So I always go back to, because I love stats, right? And I remember there's the stats that I came upon by Juniper Research, and they actually said that 2023 AI-driven chatbots can actually lead to an annual cost savings of about
Yes.
8 billion globally.
Yes. And
And
I
this,
agree with that because it's going to predict a lot of our habits, how we drive, when we drive, where we drive. Are we driving our own car? You mentioned the Jetsons. Are we driving the smart cars? Are we in self driven cars like the Teslas? I don't know if you saw the movie Leave the World Behind. Very interesting take on technology. What do you think are the current challenges in integrating AI into the insurance sector, and how can they be overcome?
I think the biggest thing, so so something I like to talk about is automation. Automation is actually not AI. However, within the insurance industry, I think the first step would be to look at adding more automation, right? But when we look at integrating AI into the insurance industry, um, obviously there's going to be challenges. And I think one of the biggest things that I mentioned is the legacy system, right? A lot of the insurance companies put up big dollars into systems that they thought would last them about 20 to 30 years, right? So I know for a fact there's one insurance company that put up a lot of money into a platform that they thought was going to last them about 20 years. So this is the issue right now, is we have companies that have put up big dollars into these systems, which is now legacy systems. That's going to be the biggest challenge, is how do you take a legacy system and start to integrate AI when there's no APIs or there's no integration allowed, right? So these systems are sometimes built where there's no flexibility and there's no scalability. And that's where AI actually requires that. So overcoming this, can mean to invest in, more infrastructures that are more AI ready, right? Ensuring that, it's able to take the data and it's able to allow for system integration. So I think additionally, one of the biggest things is, really looking at um, of them being able to invest in systems that are going to be able to have AI in some capacity. But I think that's the biggest challenge right now when we look at the integration of AI, because every time that a company invests into a platform, it's for insurance. It's not just like $10,000, $20,000. Like we're looking at millions.
Oh, millions and billions. And you're looking at someone who had the title of Chief Information Officer that just spent X amount of millions investing in something last year. That what we're discussing is that system is outdated next year. And when do you accept that? Do you accept it now and make a change? Do you wait until next year? Do you wait until 2 years until it's outdated? So these are high level, very, very significant and expensive conversations. What are some of the places where AI is already making an impact in insurance?
Um, I think the biggest thing right now is chatbots, right? I think that's where it's making the biggest impact. And because with insurance, I'm going to be honest, insurance is one of the slowest industries to adapt to technology. And I say this because I've been in the industry for 16 years. And I'll give you an example before we look at that question. So I remember I had a client that was, again, private client. He was only available to talk at 12 a.m. because that was the only time he was able to talk about insurance. And I remember binding a policy at 12 a.m. at night, and I got back in the next day and almost got my hand slapped. It was like, why are we binding policies at 12 a.m.?
Right.
So with that being said, instead of it looking at as an opportunity, like, wow, I got a sale, it was being looked at as a negative. It was like more like, those are the type of clients we don't want, like they're high risk, but like that's not the case. So instead of looking at this like, okay, let's try to expand the technology so we can help clients 24 hours, it's more like, let's get clients to do what we want, which is 9 to 5. And that's still almost the case up until today.
So,
So
and I would agree with you. I would also say for all my entrepreneurs that are listening, not only do I own and operate my own insurance agencies, I coach insurance agents across the country. The 9 to 5 clock is dead, not because I said so, but because consumers said so.
mhm,
People aren't working a traditional 9 to 5. People are generating revenue the best way they know how with the hours they have. And sometimes, even myself, I don't make time for myself to consider any personal purchases. And between 8 and 10 o'clock at night, that's when I'm not working. That's when I'm not coaching. I'm not mentoring. I'm just watching a game or a game is watching me. And it says, okay, Kevin, now you can go online. Now you can buy this thing or that thing that you've been thinking about. But during the core business hours, no one can call me about anything. I am not available.
right. And you know what, like being in sales to you, you also always have to look at a few things like, who is your clientele, who's your market that you're going after. So for me, because I was going after private client, I usually, number one, was speaking to an executive assistant most of the time. And when I did speak to the actual individual, it was at odd times of the day because they're an entrepreneur as well. Some of them are in Dubai, some of them are in different countries, right? So that's something that we have to look at. But just to go back to your point, one of the significant impacts that we'll see, like I mentioned, was the chatbots, right? When we look at customer service, right? And you said something that's so true. It's like clients are now dictating to insurance now, like when they want to be served. And a lot of the time it was like us, it's like, no, we want clients to fit within our box. And that's not what clients want. Since the pandemic has happened, it's been very opposite. So we're going to be looking at chatbots and especially virtual assistants, right? They're going to be able to make interactions faster, and not just faster, but more personalized than ever before. So when you think about a human, a lot of the times a human has, maybe they don't like their job. Maybe
Yeah.
they're driving into work, they got into an accident, maybe now. So there's a lot of things for humans because we're emotional creatures that are creative, and all of this affects how we perform at a job. But imagine now having a technology that has no feelings, but is able to perform at a faster speed than you and do it with a smile.
It doesn't talk back. So we haven't named any AI apps, and we won't. We'll just keep talking, not getting any sponsorships. But if AI, if you're out there, and you want to sponsor the podcast, jump in. But in either case, when I use AI to compose a job offer or a marketing campaign or an email, when I ask it to create it, then I look at it and then I give it feedback. I'll say, okay, this is good, but change that. It doesn't give me any emotional talk back. It just does it. And that's a beautiful, simple thing. Whereas when you're dealing with people, I'm dealing with sensitivity. Well, how is this person going to feel when I give them feedback that this document is not exactly what I was looking for, that I want to tweak and adjust it a little bit? So that's one of the other benefits. AI does not have an attitude. That's major because as a busy person with several employees, I don't have time or tolerance for any adverse energy. So it's removing the emotion, which is not a bad thing as well. So it's a lot of things. And when just for anybody that doesn't know, chatbots. I just want to define that a little bit and clean me up if I'm wrong. Chatbots. We're using chatbots. We're using those every day right now. If you were to book an airline ticket tomorrow and you wanted to speak to someone about changing the flight, is there anything early, anything later? You're not going to get a customer service representative on the phone. You're going to be talking to a chatbot because that chatbot has been programmed with answers to all the questions I can ask. Did I answer that okay in describing what a chatbot is?
You did, yeah. I did like the new realm of chatbots is what we're used to now seeing is ChatGPT, which takes it up a notch. And that's what caused the huge buzz within the AI sectors, because we were used to, as humans, speaking to this computer that only did A, B, and C, and it can never understand anything else we had to say, because the way that chatbot was programmed was only programmed with particular data sets, right, and information. But now for Chat GPT, the reason why it's taking a hold of everybody is because it feels like we're talking to another human. It feels like we're talking to not just a system now, but you can literally plug anything into it and it's giving you an answer. So yes, you did explain it correctly. I just wanted to highlight ChatGPT. ChatGPT works off of something called prompting, and it's input and output. The better that you get with the input is the better that you'll get with the output. And something that I do love about ChatGPT is what you said, is you could be having different conversations going with it. And one of the greatest things is the more conversations that you have with the system is the more that it learns your behavior and your tone and your style of what you would like. And it never gets mad at you for asking it too much questions. If anything, it actually loves that you tell it and you give it feedback, because the more feedback that this particular platform gets is the better that it optimizes itself for you. So that's the thing with chatbots. I did want to highlight something else, Kevin,
Right.
how AI is going to significantly impact insurance is if we look at claims, right? The cost of claims is absurd right now. And claims is really what costs the insurance industry the most amount of money, is the claims payout. So I strongly feel that AI is going to reduce the claim cost significantly, because it's going to have improved fraud detection built into a lot of their systems. And they're going to be able to predict even more analytics when it comes to assessing the risk upfront, right? Because a lot of when risk, meaning when a client comes in the door and says they may have a commercial building, or a home or an auto, for those that are unaware, that needs to be insured. The insurance and AI together now combined, they're going to be able to analyze data going all the way back to 1920, and being able to really revolutionize assessing risk and detecting fraud. So that's my last point with the impact in insurance.
I love it. So, all of you scammers out there that's making a lot of money off of insurance companies, you referenced Malcolm X earlier. So beware. The chicken may come home to roost in terms of knowledge and technology catching up with each other. I think this has been a phenomenal conversation, really prepping the way. We talked a lot about insurance, but I think it goes into everything else. So, and we know a lot of what you do lines up not only with what I'm doing today, but what I'm working on. I think I shared with you at InvestBest, I was there in the capacity of a vendor because I was launching my Mentors Matter program. I'm looking to mentor people everywhere to get into the insurance space. Even with all the technology coming, I still think it's an incredible space for men, for women, for people of every ethnic background to get in and really concentrate and excel in their niche markets as the world gets smaller and changes. So being able to come in and be mentored by someone with experience that's also way up on the AI, automation, and digital technology game, I think it means everything in the world to come into the business. What do you see? Look back at yourself coming into the industry with sales experience and then insurance sales. Where do you see the future of the insurance salesperson, even using technology? Do you still see the future as being very bright?
We spoke about this actually in Atlanta. I have conflicting views about it. With the sales piece, I did feel like more of a data collector with sales when I'm still in sales, but when I was in the insurance sales, it's you're getting the information from the client, you're bringing it to the insurance company, And sometimes you didn't have all the information. So then you'd have to go back to the client, get the right information. And then once you got the right information, you'd go back to the insurance company and pray that you had got all the right information. And you probably resonate with this because this is the process. And then when you get back to the insurance company, they say, oh, you forgot one piece. So then you'd have to go back to the client, get the information, and then go back to the underwriter and finally get a quote. And if you had a great relationship with that client, it didn't matter how much questions you'd go back and forth with. They're fighting it through. They're with you because they know that they have a relationship. When I was coming into the industry, it was about relationship. I did my first deal. I'll never forget it. I did my first deal. I was early 20s, and I did my first deal around, it was an Italian home that I was in. There was pasta and bread and garlic around the kitchen table. And I did my first deal around a kitchen table. And
Yes.
I actually had door knocked on that home the prior week, and the husband was out of town, and I finally got a call to come see them. I drove back out to their home. They invited me in their home, and I sat there, and I was there for about almost half of the day just talking about life and building a true relationship. They actually looked at me as their daughter, and I ended up not just getting their large home and auto. I think they had about 7 cars, but I also got their business. I did their business insurance, their life insurance, and then they actually referred me to about 12 other people. It was the biggest sale that I've gotten. So I say this to say, because when I was coming in, it was relationship building. Mm-hmm. 5 years into sales, I started noticing there was a mantle being passed down within families. So this is why it's very important as a salesperson, you understand the sales cycle, because I was used to dealing the head of the household, but now the kids were growing up and the head of the households were aging, and just with normal life, they were prepping their kids to take over managing their files. So instead of me talking directly to them, I was now talking to the kids, and the kids like things fast and saving money.
High tech. Yes, no, and the kids also like things high tech. So what used to be a conversation over pasta and bread, my agency is located in an all Italian community, so I relate very, very well. But today, and this is where I see the positive of technology, you have to meet people where they are and do business the way they want to do business. If it was up to me, I'd have several very short conversations. I would teach my team how to do that. Today, it's about adjusting on the fly to the consumer because the consumer is the boss.
Yeah.
And I think everything that you've said about adapting and learning and all the positives of AI, because the one thing that AI can't do that will still remain with people is build that relationship. AI can't do what you did to get into the house. It can learn a lot about them. It can learn that they have a home, 7 cars, multiple businesses, 4 kids that one day will take over the business. It can give you the data, but what got them to know you, like you, and want to do business with you, that's all you.
So to anyone new that's coming in, there's definitely going to be an opportunity for sales brokers. Absolutely. My biggest tip is to niche down on complex risk. Your basic standard home and auto, and you can record this and post this 10 years from now, because this is, I truly believe this. The basic home and auto sales are all going to be computer generated. It's all going to be done in lightning speed. Within minutes, you'll be able to find these particular policies. Everyone will go online for these particular sales. So if anybody that's coming in, you can still make a lot of money. I believe you can be a millionaire within the insurance industry and sales. How you do that now is you have to be number one, which artificial intelligence is not right now, is the creativity that humans has. So niche down into complex risks that take time to actually bind and get insurance. So what that means is your commercial insurance is the way to go. So anybody that's new, I came in on the personal lines aside, and then I engulfed into commercial and life insurance, and with commercial, which is business. I'd highly recommend anybody that's getting into insurance, please go into commercial commercial side, and life insurance. These are things that are very complex to sell. And the AI bot will not be able to do that for, I'll give it about 6 years. So
Well, that you ended that insurance piece on a very, very high note. Edwina, where can people follow you and catch up with you at? Not only have you done wonderful things already, you are a person on the go. I see your name in lights anywhere and everywhere. And I'll be happy to play this podcast 5, 10 years from now and say, look, I knew her when. So where can people follow you at and really partake in your journey?
absolutely. So the biggest thing for me is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my number one platform where you can connect with me. And then also I share pieces of my life on Instagram, and I love talking about AI. So it's to the point where I've changed all my platforms into educational platforms because I don't want anybody to be left behind. So I try my best to educate as much as possible. So those are the two places that you can find me.
And your podcast?
And my podcast, yes, called Move Us Forward. This is a podcast where you could definitely look to listen, learn, and level up.
Beautiful. I love it. I hope to be invited back as a guest again. We missed that connection, but we will make it happen. I'd love to be in the opposite seat with you asking me the questions and hopefully adding as much value to you as you added to me tonight. Edwina, any parting words, anything? Oh, I do have one final question. So my podcast is called Wind Down with Kev, the Dream Chaser podcast. You've done a lot, but you're chasing a new dream now. I would like for you to give a message to anyone that's chasing any kind of dream, just a word of encouragement, inspiration from you.
Absolutely. Biggest thing is make noise when you're doing things. And this is honestly the same thing I started off with is how I'm going to end it is don't sit with your dreams. Yes, you have to be careful with who you tell your dreams to, but you have to have a strategy and be strategic with who you speak to. They say closed mouth have a closed destiny. And I truly believe that. So the more that you keep your mouth closed, is the closed off your destiny is going to be. I believe that you can have a life of abundance, and the only way to do that is to make noise when you're doing things and let people know what you're doing, because that's the only way for people to plug you in rooms when you are not there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Canada's own, the world's own Edwina McKennon. Watch her, follow her everywhere. You said your platform is everything at your full name?
Yes, you can share my hashtags after, but yes, it's Edwina McKennon. That's where you can find me on LinkedIn, and at Edwina McKennon on Instagram.
Excellent. Thank you. Great job. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Thanks for being here.